every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked.
A quick introduction for describing my side. My face is forgettable, a regular guy. Now I can be anyone, anywhere I aim. I just need the mindset, a story and a name. Just started working here, haven't got my badge yet. My hard hat and clipboard's the same as all access. Data center rooftop, finished with my case soon. Taking people's lunches from the bags up in the break room. Talking through my story, recited it with confidence. Make you feel at ease, disregard your common sense. Now I'm in, hope you're ready for the consequence. Cause I'm picking locks, slipping off.
Welcome to the social-engineer.org podcast number 20. How are we doing today, guys?
Number 20!
Hey, he actually was excited this time.
Yeah.
I mean, like last
You
time.
got a pause there. You just kept going on. Normally I get a pause.
You know, I'm sorry, because last time we paused, you were like a dead person. You were like, number 19.
It was a bad day, okay? Listen, you guys were ripping on me the entire day.
You know,
And
so...
I had a whole bunch of other stuff going on, so just leave it at that.
Listen, we didn't expect you to actually be excited, so, you know, we thought we wouldn't pause. But that was great. Thank you for that introduction.
Number 20.
So you can hear Dave is here with us, and we got Elwood. Elwood, what's up, man?
I'm fine.
I'm dying. And we got Mutz. What's up, Mutz?
All good, all good.
So we're the three of us are in a room together. Dave's the only one who's not here with us.
There's a reason for that.
There's a reason for that. We didn't invite him, but then he found us and got us on Skype, so now he's in the podcast anyway.
What?
But, you know.
You're the one that sent me an email saying, hey, are you going to be on the podcast?
I never sent that email. You have no proof
I
of that.
have proof. In fact, I'm going to screenshot and post it on Twitter right now.
Yeah, well, you can do that, but, you know, that could be forged anytime.
We're set through set.
Yeah, you can use set. You can forge the email, you know. From what I hear, 1.3 can really do that well.
It can.
So how is the release of 1.3? You got any stats of, like, how many millions of people downloaded it?
Well, it got so bad that it overloaded all my servers and people couldn't get it, so I guess that was pretty good. I haven't checked the exact statistics, but, I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, I've been seeing, like, Twitter and the inner tubes blowing up about people.
Did you see the inner tubes?
I did.
Okay.
The inner tubes.
I'm just checking.
Yeah, just, you know. I'm trying to be all techie and stuff.
Okay.
You know.
No, it's going good. This release was awesome. It couldn't have gone any better, and it's about 4 months of straight development finally paid off, so...
I'm sure tab completion was like one of the major features right there in the list, huh?
Hey,
Like next to pwning the world and like hacking Microsoft, tab completion was just like, oh my god.
Listen, I didn't even release tab completion to 1.3 because I'm saving it for 2.0 because that's all it's going to be based on.
I see. So now let me just get it right. The features are hacking wireless, hacking client side, putting exploits, having custom payloads, and tab completion, right?
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
I get it now.
Yeah.
Well, no, listen. There's you can also do an up arrow, which gives you your last command.
Oh
so
my God.
that alone.
You know, I
It's
would just
worth
leave
it.
tab completion and up arrow, and then all the rest just scrap out, you know? Like, my tool could do tab completion and up arrows, and the rest is just, like, irrelevant.
It's funny, too, because most of the interaction you do with set is like one number inner. So the tab completion is extremely useful.
Yeah, extremely useful.
So I didn't implement tab completion for everything. I just did it for the set interactive shell. It's not the whole thing.
Okay.
Well, come on, you better get on that. I want to be able to hit like 8 tab.
Hey,
enter.
By the way, Dookie just walked in. Hey, Dookie. He's on the podcast now.
And also the cleaning guy. Just like, hey.
Yeah, hey, cleaning guy, what's up?
Hola.
Hola. Dude, that was offensive to, like, everyone that listens.
Oh, it's a stereotype.
Hey, I got a feature request, Dave, for version 2.0 with the tab completion.
Yes.
Can you make it put 2 spaces after every period when you're typing out an email or something, just for Jim?
Only if it detects Elwood or Jim. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
In fact, I had it so that it rewrote the boot.ini and NTL DLL loader so that it would just blue screen his computer every time he used it, but I figured that was a little too harsh. So I like the spaces idea.
Yeah, because that will drive him nuts. I mean, he couldn't even read that beginning of my book because of that problem. It actually bothered him psychologically.
Yeah.
So
Give me the shakes.
Anyhow, good work on 1.3.
Thank you.
We heard some nice things about it. So you told us just you're
Wait,
gonna.
but didn't we hear all the nice things from Dave?
We did. That's true. Yeah, I guess you're right. We heard a bunch of nice things from Dave, so we didn't
So
hear.
we don't really know if it's like cool or not.
Yeah, we don't know if we heard nice things from other people.
I see.
I think Dave has a hidden module in set that's called the set promotion engine.
Set promotion engine. Yeah. That's what took him 4 weeks to code.
It was actually 4 months, but
4 months. I'm
months
sorry.
is actually tab completion, and then the set advertising engine only took a couple days.
It places banners everywhere. You know.
Fake Twitter accounts.
Fake Twitter accounts. Set is awesome. We love you. You know what was really funny is the other day we were recording something, and Jim says, "Hey, I heard that Set is now." All the coding for Set has been sent overseas. He's got a team of little Chinese kids programming it outsourced.
Well, that's what I keep telling my wife is like I can't wait till Gavin and my other two are of age of coding. So then I'm just going to pawn off all of the coding to them and take all the credit.
Son, you have new homework.
Yeah. If you want dinner tonight, I want that module done.
I want that advertisement module to be on every social networking site.
Awesome. Okay, so listen, a couple other things we got to talk about. The CTF, we launched that just recently, and we are already over the threshold of how many contestants we can take for the contest as far as how many registrants are. But we're going to be going through that list in the next couple of weeks, choosing the 16 contestants and then notifying them. A lot of different things this time. We talked a lot about the sample report that we're going to give, so I know that's one thing.
Yep.
I'm not going to make the same mistake as before with the premier targets. I'll tell you what they are first.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so Mutz doesn't smack me again. So we have this new concept where we actually contacted some companies, which will remain nameless for now, that are going to work with us as willing targets. So they have putting their security awareness programs on the line and really giving us a good run for our money and allowing us to just call them in our social engineering CTF and use their company as a target. So we're going to really be excited to see how that pans out, this CTF. Got a company that really has got some big kahunas, so we're going to be happy to see that. And we're not even going to release what sector it's in yet, but I think once we tell everyone what business sector it's in,
everyone will be gasping.
Yeah, they're gonna be gasping for breath, not expected at all. So it's gonna be pretty awesome. But if you want to register, if you think you got the schmooze, you better get in there now because we're going to be closing registration soon.
Is there any point in still registering? Aren't we?
Yeah, because we're not choosing the first 16 like we did last year. We're going to actually go through the list and choose ones who we feel told us why. We asked them to explain why they should be part of the competition.
I see.
And just to clarify that, it's not based on, we're not going to pick the people based on who we think is the best out of the applicants. It's who we think are the ones that are most excited and are really the people that are into it.
Right. If someone, their explanation was because I'm the best on earth and I'm going to XOR you, then we're not going to probably go with that guy. Whereas someone who's really excited about the competition, we're going to choose them.
Because really, you can't understate the amount of work that's actually required of being a contestant in this. The research that goes into it, then the report they have to write coming into it. You have to be committed, and you have to be ready to sit down and put some work into it in order to compete and in order to win. Otherwise, you're going to really have some problems.
Yes, agreed.
I think it only takes about 5 minutes.
Well, you should sign up to compete, Dave.
Yeah.
Maybe you can build a set module for it.
Hey, you can build a set module.
Please give me your password.
Yeah. Set CTF module coming out version 1.6.
Uses Macintalk.
Yeah, Macintalk. Let's see, a couple other things.
Stephen Hawking's asking for my password.
Stephen Hawking. Dude, today you're just like extra offensive. I mean, what's up with that? I hope Stephen is not listening to this podcast because he loves the social-engineer.org podcast.
I heard it's very inspirational.
He told me the other day we were talking about the theory of relativity.
I like your podcast.
That's what he said. That's exactly what he said. He sounded just like that. Dude, you really got problems. I mean, I gotta say, if you like the intro music, you should check out Dual Core at dualcoremusic.com. That guy's awesome.
Is it a guy or is it a bunch of people?
Hey, he gave us permission. You weren't at Shmoo.
Okay.
Right, Jim? He gave us permission to call him Dual Core because it's like
SEO.
Right, SEO. That's what he said. He goes, it's okay. So you don't have to slap me around about that anymore. And exciting news about the CTF is Dual Core will be doing the song that he wrote for us on the podcast live.
Wow.
Opening up the live podcast at DEF CON on Sunday. So if you really want to see that, you got to come and see him do the song live. It's going to be awesome. Okay, other sponsors we got for the podcast: Offensive Security. We love you, Mutz. and of course all of the Offset crew. We got our live training going on. Actually, it's already going to be over beginning of April, but we have another one which we're not going to give details on here because we're going to make a huge announcement about a first-time kind of Offset class.
Arr!
Yes, that's all we'll say is "Arg, matey," and that will be the hint. But it's going to be quite awesome, and it's going to be very limited. So when we announce it next week,
So sign up, even though you don't know what you're signing
Yes.
up to. Sign up now.
yeah, you should email me right away and get your name on the list for sign-ups for this PWB class that's going to be in a very, very special location.
The thing about this one is if you do bad, you got to walk the plank.
You got to walk the plank. You got to wear an eye patch all week. You got to do all your coding with one eye.
iPad?
Eye patch, you know.
Oh, eye patch.
iPad. You got to wear an iPad.
An iPad
Dude,
over your eye.
You've been Macintized. I mean, you got to wear an iPad, really? I want that class. Yeah, look, Jim put an iPhone over his eye. All righty. See, Dave's not laughing because he's not here with us to see that, so that's why he's not laughing.
Oh, okay.
also,
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, generally when you're on a podcast, you want to make things that sound audible and not things that are visual.
Oh, really?
So you just bored all of our audience. I'm just
Oh,
saying.
really? Really?
Because
Because
I actually
it's too
fell
bad you
asleep.
can't see what the gesture that Chris is making to you.
yeah, it's
That's-
really.
I
It's
fell
really
asleep. I'm sorry. I'm still sleeping.
yeah, that's really. I guess we'll find out from our audience. Hey, if you didn't like that last bit, let us know. You know,
There we go. That's a new poll.
You know, yeah, another poll. Yeah, do you think that we should make fun of Dave in a room when he's not here? Yes or no? SpyAssociates.com. Check that place out. They're always sending us cool gadgets and stuff that we get to test out. But this month we have a new one too. KeeDragon.com. KEE Dragon.com. Now, Jim, you actually have the device here with you.
Yep, I have it here. Still got to pull it out of my bag and show you, but it's nice. It's a little device that goes in between a USB keyboard and the computer, and it's a keystroke logger. And it has 2 gig of built-in storage, and that's all kind of common, I guess, but what makes this one kind of nice is has built-in Wi-Fi, so you can do a dump of the data without having to physically retrieve the actual device. So that could be very, very useful in a lot of different situations. And the other thing that they actually have on their website, we didn't get one of them, but does look pretty neat, is it goes in between a DVI or VGA port and it takes screenshots on user-defined intervals. So
Now, the one we got though is Wi-Fi enabled, right?
Wi-Fi enabled.
So
yeah.
you can actually collect the data from a distance if you had a Wi-Fi connection to it.
Yep.
You could be sitting outside the building. And
Exactly.
that's awesome.
do a dump on a regular basis, never have to physically retrieve it, and
That really is awesome.
Yep.
That really is. Or you can like spy on your coworkers, like install it in the bosses, and then sit in your office and like collect their.
yep.
Yeah, you need a good reason to do that, though. Spy on your boss, you know.
I don't know. I do it all the time. Oh, I meant in my old jobs. My old jobs. Just kidding. Hey, was that okay, Dave? Because we were here and it was audible. It was still a joke, though.
It was audible. I was laughing.
Oh, okay, because we didn't hear you laugh, so I just wanted to make sure
Oh,
it was
sorry.
okay.
You must have cut out with your slow internet connection at the hotel.
Actually, we do have a terrible internet connection here.
Yeah.
Man, that's right. We just
Wait,
lost
you
like.
guys hear this? Wait, hang on. Wait for it. Just 1 second. 1 second.
Is this that piano guy?
All right, you guys are the best part of the song.
We just lost 50,000 listeners.
I don't know if that's the case. I mean, 50,000 is kind of extreme.
Well, that's true.
Well, I think we got 50,000 to lose.
Hideki is like trying to laugh quietly. Isn't that funny? He should just be audible about it.
More of a giggler than a laugh.
You know, he's a giggler. He's giggling like a schoolgirl. Okay, so let's talk about today. Our guest is a return guest, Robin Dreek. He is an FBI agent that deals a lot with social engineering, and he works with a BAU division. We're going to get him on now and actually have him talk a little bit about us. But the reason we have
About
Robin
us?
about his job, sorry,
Okay.
thank you, and about us.
Because if he talks about us, I don't know. I want to bring.
He's
him
going
on.
to talk about us.
I can't take
Oh
criticism.
no, he's going to do it. He's going to do it.
Okay.
Because one of the things that Robin is a pro at is building rapport. So that's really our topic for how to get to know people really, really fast and get information from them that they really don't usually give up. So let's get Robin in. Okay, excellent. We got Robin on the podcast with us now. Robin, thanks for coming back to be with us again. We appreciate your time.
It's great to have you all again.
So since the last time we talked, which was quite a few months ago on the podcast, has anything changed with you, your job?
A little bit. On my resume there, I've posted. It shows that been a member of the behavioral analysis program for us in the FBI since 2004. The only thing that's changed is that instead of being a member, I've taken over the team as of probably about a month ago. So I'm the program manager for our national team, and I get to not only teach this stuff all the time, but now I'm going out and doing a lot more case assessments as well.
That's excellent.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, really.
That's awesome.
Sounds exciting, too. I mean, you probably get to see a lot more now with the case studies and everything, really analyzing people a lot deeper.
Yeah, you really do, and that's the one thing that keeps it exciting is that there's always something new, and people are always different, and also keeps me traveling on the plane and chatting to people on the plane too, which is always fun.
Yes, and now you get to use like what you wrote in that article on the blog.
Yeah, I did that on my recent trip I did too. It was pretty funny.
Hey, you want to hear something crazy? That actually really, really works in real life. This just happened to me. We were taking the same flight out of country, and now this was all. It wasn't malicious, but this person wanted to sit next to me on the plane, and we're not related. No relation at all. And they called into the airline and said, "Oh, my friend is flying on this same flight. Can you tell me what seat he's in?" They gave her all the information of where I'm sitting, and then yes, her.
This is a woman who wanted to sit next to you?
It's your wife.
Crap!
That's good.
Enjoy business.
Dig us up.
and they gave her the seat and name and everything and put her right next to me. Is that crazy
absolutely.
or what? It really works.
Robin, I have a really silly question for you, but every time we have someone who comes from a specific profession, I have to ask this question. How close is your work to Criminal Minds? Are you familiar with the TV show?
You broke up.
Yeah, broke up a little bit.
Oh, Maddie was asking, how close is your work mirror the TV show Criminal Minds?
There's elements of it that are right and elements of it that are wrong. Some of the speed. Also, Criminal Minds, those guys on the BAU side are dealing with a lot more of the abnormal psych and dealing with, crimes against adults, crimes against children and such. And my side, I'm dealing more on the normal psychology side. So I'm more on I really focus on the power of influence and elicitation and trying to get people to cooperate, and their side isn't. They're trying to find the killers, and that's the real difference between the two. So I'm kind of more focused on what you guys are doing as a social engineer than they are. But some of the stuff that I wish we had offices and jets like that to fly around the world.
Is that show realistic besides the jets and the offices?
No, I do have a decent office, but I got an office mate, and I got great United flight points, so I use United for those things.
But besides those two things, is that show realistic as far as like how they profile people and actually catch the bad guys?
I think from what I've seen, some of the elements are, again, they're not. We do some interoperability with the BAUs. We just had a recent case we just worked with them on. But I'm not an expert in their area and what they do, so I wouldn't want to really comment too deeply on it.
Understood. Okay. Well, we actually have you on today to talk about something that you just brought up, which is really interesting to us as social engineers. One of our biggest roles we have to play, probably one of the biggest jobs we have, is when we walk up to someone, building an instant rapport, being able to get them to like us and feel comfortable in giving us information very quickly, especially when we're in a social engineering gig. We don't have time really to fluctuate or to build a long-term relationship. So knowing how to build rapport quickly is probably one of the most important aspects of being a social engineer. Especially when you're dealing with maybe breaking down barriers or breaking down people's personal dislikes about another person, even visually right up front, but how to get past all that and still build rapport. Right. So our question, I guess, for you, coming in with as the expert on this, is talking to us about how we can build rapport quickly. Maybe giving us some of the tips that you've used in your classes or things that you've used in person to talk about building rapport.
It's such a great topic because it's so very important in what you do and what I do and really what we all do is, we have such a short amount of time to make that first impression. And once we lose it, and it's gone for a very long time, and like you said, we don't have time to make it back up. I had someone in a class yesterday ask me. I was given a block of instruction on the disc as well as nonverbals, for making a connection. And the individual asked me, he said, how do you fake it? And I said, well, first thing you do is you can't fake it. I said the first thing when it really comes to developing rapport, I think, really rapidly is one, stay within reality, stay within yourself, and your own situation of events in your life, because no matter how hard you fake it or how well practiced you are, being congruent with what you're saying and your nonverbals is absolutely imperative, because you're going to come across creepy otherwise.
Okay, now that you bring up a really interesting topic, so let me venture on this for a second.
Okay.
So, let's use a common situation where maybe you're going to be nervous. Your goal is to get inside this office building, so you approach the front desk, and you're nervous. Which, let's say, the nonverbals will be fear. So how do you control the nonverbals on your face and body to not show fear when what you want to show is confidence? I belong here.
Right. The only thing I can relate it to in my life, very similar to that, is when approaching a bad guy and trying to get him to cooperate. The anxiety gets very high, and the stress, it can easily come out non-verbally. The best thing I've ever done in my own life, in my own situation, I always encourage everyone to do, and even when getting up, and I know you do a lot of public speaking as well. When you're getting up in front of a large number of people, the anxiety can really rise. But the best number one thing I think I do, and what I teach to do, is you got to put yourself in the time, in the mode of I'm here to help a friend, and I put that in my mind, like I'm here, I have something to offer, and I just immediately imagine that these people are my friends and colleagues, and I'm here to share some great information with them. And once I embody that feeling, the anxiety calms down. And so because, social engineer doesn't really walk into a place cold, they've done a lot of research on a place, on an organization, institution, or an individual, they really feel like they probably know it pretty well before they even walk in that door. And so, and remember, in order to get information, you have to give something, because, reciprocal altruism takes effect. People need to get something from you as well, even if it's just a good feeling. And if you're ready to give that good feeling, then you're here ready to make them feel good about themselves, and you can really embrace that. Here, it's a good thing I'm walking through the door for you today, and I'm here to help a friend. Granted, you're going to get something out of it as well.
So in essence, you're like, you have to pretext yourself almost.
Yes.
You have to social engineer yourself, because I know internally my goal would be, I'm not here to help you. I'm here.
Chris just uses the everyone's naked approach.
Well, that does help me.
If it fits the personality, that's good.
It does help me. So yeah, sometimes it makes me very uncomfortable though to vision that. Jim, put your clothes on. No. I'm thinking, like, you really have to social engineer yourself to an extent, because right. What you're saying there is, like, I know inside my goal is not to be friendly to you. My goal is to come into your company and maybe take away secrets or data or papers or a server or something. And to do that, I need to now tell myself, no, I'm coming in to help you.
But, I would say in that situation, what I would most likely do is you're here to maybe get something from the company, but the individuals along the way, you're going to give along the way, and you're going to make them feel very good about helping you out. And so that's what I will focus on. I will focus on how I'm going to make the individual feel, so I can get what I need from the company.
So, go ahead, Jim.
Going on there, but it helps.
Well, I guess one of the things that crosses my mind is a lot of people that try to come into social engineering, in the security field at least, when they approach it, they are a lot of people start out as technical folk, and then they move into social engineering, mainly because of the effectiveness of the area. But they may not have the personality or the social skills that say you might have walking into a given situation. For someone like that just doesn't have that natural ability to put themselves out there, what sort of suggestions do you have for them so that they can try to come out of their shell a little bit more?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. And before we even chatted today, I cognated and wrote a bunch of things down that I generally teach. And then right at the very end, I came up with, I think, the number one thing that I've learned over the years. Because I have an extroverted personality and I don't have a problem doing this. But as I've experimented with so many different techniques of interacting with people, I think the number one thing that people shouldn't do is try to impress anyone. Because the minute you start trying to impress someone with your knowledge and background to try to fit in, it's the moment that the shields go up because people don't care about you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it might be a lot easier for an individual, that coming from a technical background. And there's the challenge because, if you come in from a technical background and then you got to go into the realm of interpersonal communication, you are an expert. But the biggest thing you need to do is suspend that ego, suppress your expertise, and play one-downsmanship, and don't try to impress anyone. Use the technique of sympathy, to elicit help, and elicit a response, elicit whatever you need. And 9 times out of 10, remember, in all the cases I deal with, if I roll in with my ego suspended and looking for help, people will get it. So I think that's the best thing anyone can do.
So I guess you see these videos sometimes on YouTube. These people try to promote, excuse me, that they can build rapport with anyone like in 5 minutes. And then you see these, you wonder how many times they've failed before, but you see them walk up to a complete stranger on the street, and before you know it, they're getting their phone number and personal information handed to them.
Right.
Do you is that realistic in your thoughts, or is this something that people can really do?
Yeah.
Yes.
And if so, how?
I think the first thing on my points I wrote down. I'm just replaying my own tapes of what I've seen, but really of what I've done. That first thing it's got to do is you got to fit your own personality. I am an individual that I tend to like to smile a lot, and so the thing is, when you approach someone with a smile, don't leer. So if you're going to try to impress someone, I got some guy that's puts a cheesy grin on and just starts staring and gawking at someone. Well, that's very offsetting. So the first thing
he looks like a serial killer.
Yeah, make a quick smile, a quick glance, and then glance away. And that's fine enough. Next thing you got to really do is keep your tempo slow. Don't overspeak, don't oversell. Slow down your tempo. Make sure you're modulating. Be confident. But at the same time, being confident, what you're not being is cocky. Because remember, you're seeking help. Because I think the number one thing people try to do is they're willing to help people that are looking for help.
Let me ask you a question on point 2 before you go to number 3.
Sure.
Are you suggesting then that saying less is better? So not just your tempo, but actually not saying too much?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you roll in with a theme of, if you're going to use a pretext about why you're there and who you are, don't oversell it. Just say it, state it, be confident in it, and don't oversell. And then you're going to seek help. Help, because, whatever theme you're going to, help I'm sure you can identify, you've gotten in trouble before. If I don't get this, or if I don't have a chat with so-and-so, or fix my problem that I created for myself, I'm going to be in big problem, big, I'll get in big trouble. My wife's birthday this weekend, and, I don't want to spend the weekend away from her. I might have to go in on the weekend if I don't have help doing this. These kind of themes can really endear yourself to someone because you're opening up. Can be completely contrived, but what you're doing is, you're appealing to their sense of humanity when you're doing that.
Is that number 3? You're saying seek help?
Yeah, what I got down there, show tempo, definitely seek help. Seek help, and that goes along with the theme you're going to choose. For myself, last time we chatted, I talked about, talking about my kids, and daughter dating age and everything. And right now, it's our anniversary weekend. I use anniversaries and birthdays all the time as a theme, because that gets people's shields down, and they'll speak about what they're comfortable about, and they see that you're willing to open up about things yourself. So I think seeking help and seeking their opinions is extremely critical, because basically what you're doing is you're identifying and you're letting them know that you value their opinion and they're an expert in their field.
I feel really guilty right now because you just said it's your anniversary weekend. So, happy anniversary! Happy anniversary! And I feel like a slug right now.
Chris.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Chris,
we're good.
About something that Robin was saying. I've spent the past few months in a warm place, and when I say warm, I don't necessarily mean weather, but the people there are very warm. So you go to a restaurant, and the waiter comes to you and says, "Hey, dearie, what would you like?" And you're like, "Hey, sweetie, I would like so and so."
Yeah.
So I came with that warmth, if you like, back to the United States, and I'm there passing through TSA, and and interacting with Americans with the same type of warmth, and the response you get is quite surprising.
Yeah.
You know,
You called the TS agent sweetie?
Yeah, I did. I went ahead. Hey, sweetie.
Ouch.
Dearie. I didn't call her sweetie. I called her dearie. And
What'd he say?
Yeah. he put 2 gloves on.
Like, I'll need more than 2 fingers.
Yeah.
To check my. But what I actually have seen is that bringing this warm approach, I've noticed 2 things. That when you do talk to someone, you end up talking about yourself and revealing more information about yourself than you usually would.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, you develop a very, very quick conversation, and a very honest one pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I was there on a plane speaking to some guy from the southern parts of the United States, and he was telling me all about his NRA association and what types of weapons he has at home and where he shoots them and what he does with them, and he was there just blabbing away. And to get to that point, I had to give a bit more information about myself as well. But I felt that the amount of information I gathered from him was unproportional to the amount of information that I gave.
Right, 'cause that guy even showed you his membership card.
Yeah,
and
he showed me
everything, right?
his NRA membership card and all his, credit cards, and
Yeah.
explained each and every one. And so it was really interesting in that aspect, because I came with a much warmer approach. I felt that I had to give more information about myself to get there, but it was just smooth. It really was.
Right.
Yeah.
You obviously, great example of quid pro quo elicitation technique, as well as the fact that you knew exactly what it was you're giving away. I call it, you got so many things in the bucket you're willing to give out, and once they're all gone, they're gone, and you're not willing to reveal other things. But I think if you have a pretty full bucket, you parcel those things out, timing-wise, and that's where the personalization comes in, and people are willing to open up, because after you tell a little bit about yourself and you get them going on themselves, they won't stop, because they love talking about themselves, because no one else in the world cares.
That really is so true. So true.
Yeah.
Okay, now you had this good list. I love the break-offs, but were there more than 3 steps? Third, you said you asked for help.
Yeah, well, using sympathy. Next is, and we talked about it a little bit already, and that was a great demonstration of it. Suspend your own ego, that need to have another story to, one-upsmanship their ego. I love setting artificial time constraints at the beginning, maybe. And that's, where like say you talk to a woman at the counter, you already have an artificial time constraint that you'll be moving away just because, once the purchase is done. But say you're walking up to someone at a bar, or, in a social encounter, or at a conference or something, setting up an artificial time constraint is something you can do either non-verbally, keep your body slightly bladed away, maybe chat over the shoulder, and say, hey, I only have a few minutes, but I was wondering if you might be able to give me a hand with something. Because that way they don't feel like you're going to impress your time or yourself on them for a prolonged period of time.
Okay,
now,
so can I stop you? Can I stop you there for a second? This is really interesting now, because the first point you brought up was making sure your nonverbals match your verbal.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying here you want to stress that you're setting some time constraint in the beginning. What are the nonverbals that will show them that you're serious about you don't have a lot of time?
Easiest thing is keeping your body semi-bladed away. In other words, don't do a full face-on-face with them. Keep a body bladed away and maybe talking at an angle or even over your shoulder.
So your feet should be pointed like you're going to exit.
Yes.
And then your hips, of course, will be pointed that way. Are there any facial expressions we need to focus on?
I just think with the facial, just keeping the same warmth and keeping the chin angle down, a slight head tilt and smile is always the best way to roll forward.
Okay, excellent. I didn't mean to stop you, because this step by step is superb, and this really helps us to see exactly how this can be done.
Right.
Okay, so go ahead with number 5 or wherever we're at.
All right. Then after set the artificial time constraints. You're going to have your theme that you start with, whatever your opening line is going to be, and that's going to be seeking help, whatever it is that, you're going for. I think the most important thing at that point is to start threading on the content that they're choosing based on the response. Great example, I was sitting on a plane about a week ago and sitting next to a nice young lady there, and, once again, you initiate. I asked her about dating age, for kids, and she immediately talked about how she's a single mom. And so I then had content to work with. I said, so tell me what it's like to be a single mom. And she then went into, each of her children and, what strengths they each have. So I started validating and making her feel very good about all the choices that her kids made. And that gets into the next one I have accept people for who they are and validate their choices. Now, here's a single mom. And I said, so, when did you become a mom? She got pregnant with her first son when she was 16. I said, wow. I said, what a fantastic challenge that must have been. What kind of things did you enjoy or learn from that? And she was so taken aback by the fact that I was non-judgmental about the fact that she became pregnant at 16. And I valued what a great learning experience, what a great mom she must be because she did all this. And so she just went on and on about the relationship with her parents, her father, the kids' fathers, And so it was really amazing because I didn't pass judgment on something that, I would say, well, that's a little off, but I just valued her choices. So I think that's key.
Now, how do you do that? How do you successfully do that when really you don't agree?
Be fascinated by people. I think you gotta, I know it might be hard sometimes, but I think, I'm always ready to ask the question, how, when, and why. And I'm more interested in figuring and trying to understand you. And I think if you're, as a social engineer, you're trying to understand people so you can elicit what you need. And my whole goal was, can I get more dates of birth and PIN numbers from her? And so I didn't really care about her choices, but I knew my end state was to develop enough rapport to do that. And so in order to do that, I have to be fascinated in you and try to understand every aspect of you and validate that. So I've just become fascinated with the choices people make.
Yeah, that's interesting. Way back in the beginning of our podcasting days, we had a law enforcement agent on who was a professional interrogator or interviewer, as he liked to be called, and he was telling us about a case where they arrested this guy who was a real perv. He would look in women's windows, and he had this big fetish for cowboy boots. So somehow he found these women that would walk around their house unclothed with just cowboy boots on, and they sent him in to interview this guy, and his methodology was that he went in and talked about how much he loved cowboy boots also. But he liked pink ones. He didn't like the brown ones. He liked pink ones. And this guy felt so comfortable that here was another guy in the room that liked cowboy boots, that he spilled his guts about every peeping Tom incident he had from the beginning of time, gave names, dates, areas, where he was, suggestions, yeah. I mean, this guy spilled the beans about every crime he committed when it came to this.
Absolutely.
Because he felt, like what you said, he felt validated about his thing that would probably be disturbing to most people.
I like how.
Well, how many people? Yeah, because it's so simple. It's simple human connection. How many people in that guy's life valued what he did? Not necessarily valued, but willing to listen to him and not pass judgment on him. Same thing with the girl that got pregnant at 16. How many people actually stand there and say, wow, I understand what you did. What an amazing choice that you made. You're not saying that's something I would do or necessarily, but you're saying something that, is not devaluing their choice or anything like that, or definitely just not pass judgment on it. You're not judging the book by the cover. You're kind of diving down and seeing what kind of things are there, what you're getting out of it, telling about it. And I'll tell you what, it was easy. Here's why it was easy. When I learned about her children, and her oldest, talking about, when you have a plane, remember every detail. That's a big thing I always remember. Here's just some girl on a plane. I even wrote her name and all her info down just in case I ever wanted to. She's in human resources in a company down in Richmond, and her eldest son, who is 21, is just joining the Marine Corps. Her middle son is off to college and studying engineering, and her youngest son is a great musician. And so it's easy then to value the choice that she made, because regardless of whether it was my choice that I would do or not, what a great outcome. And then I just explored and said, how was it that you're able to mitigate, no father in the family? So my father, their grandfather was very close and involved in her life. I said, wow, that's amazing. What kind of guy is he? Tell me about him. And so she would go into great details about him, and I just kept validating, and she just kept going.
So do you find that doing this, when you're not in a social engineering gig, as practice kind of enables you to be smoother or more prolific at it when you are actually in an audit?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I constantly practicing all the time. You have to practice. It's a muscle memory, and the more I get asked this all the time too. Normally I have to give a caveat before I speak. Let people know it's okay to talk to me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people get scared to talk to you, and 9 times out of 10, all the questions I get asked is, how do you turn it off? I said, turn what off? I said, it's just on. I said, because when I start chatting with someone, I honestly want to understand them and be a better, because good people care about other people. Granted, I have an agenda, but everyone always has an agenda. My agenda might be getting your password or PIN number, but a lot of people's agenda is to take advantage of you, in some other way. It has nothing to do with anything except everyone's got say you got a neighbor next door, and you want to put a fence up. You're going to social engineer your neighbor that you have no interaction with before so that he can come up with the idea without you even suggesting it about a fence. And so how do you do that? You one-downmanship, you validate him, you have conversations with him, and you ask him his opinion about the property line. What do you think about, so we're doing it all the time. I have an agenda, but he's feeling very good about the engagement.
I just get a dog and let my dog crap all over his all over his lawn,
engineer to let me put my fence up.
Yeah, that's not really a social engineering methodology right there. Is that point number 7?
I don't know. It gets me passwords all the time.
It gets you passwords. Great.
Hey, Buffy, go poo.
I think that's really about it, though. When I was writing all the things down, but I really think. You encapsulate that entire thing with, some things we talked about before, and that is, gift giving, that theme of reciprocal altruism, and never try to impress, but seek help. And anyone who rolls in that way, they'll do very, very well. And the big thing is, if someone's saying something and you know the answer, don't say the answer. Ask them what they think the answer is. And even if they're wrong, according to your perception, validate that they got it right. I mean, never argue. Never argue with someone that you're trying to social engineer. It'll never go anywhere.
One other thing I've been doing recently, just to see how it works more so, is having a sentence that can have multiple different answers in the end or words, and then pausing as if I don't know the word, and letting people fill in the thought for me. And, yeah, it's amazing sometimes what you'll hear from people when they fill in your own thought. I did this just as a test. I was at a hotel and I wanted to see if I can get the security guy to unlock my door, even though I had a key. Unlock my door and let me in my room without proof of ID. Right. So I had told him, hey, I was trying to get in this room and I paused, and he's like, oh, what, your key stopped working? I said, yeah, exactly. Can you help me out? And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And he just let me in my room without asking for any ID or anything.
Silence with minimal encouragers are fantastic, and I just made sure I just added it to my list, because that's exactly what you did. You played on sympathy because can you help me? But he chose the content, and silence, a little eyebrow arch, to show that you're want to hear what he has to say, and a little more silence. Someone will fill in that silence as long as you're comfortable with it, and that's a great example of it. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was just testing these things out because I like to see it. Sometimes I like your idea of trying to do these things in a non-malicious way, just every day,
sure, to
kind of keep yourself in practice. So when it does come to an actual audit, it's more natural. That's a really, really good suggestion. We get that a lot in our channel and with our in email. People are always asking, how can I practice social engineering skills without getting in trouble? Because it's not like you don't want to go down to Staples and buy some fake badges and go print them up and try to SE your way into a bank or something. That can get you in trouble. But how can you do this? And you just gave us some great suggestions on how we can try building rapport with just everyday people that will really help us build that skill set when it's time to use it in real life.
I say another good challenge to place for yourself in there is, take a look at the profile, especially age-wise, generation of those individuals that, will be most likely engaging in a social engineering situation, and making sure that you're going to engage that generation when you're practicing as well. One of the things I do with my students when they go out is I make sure that when we start escalating and trying to go against harder targets, that they try to elicit from a generation above theirs, because there's a whole different set of nuances that might come about because of that. So knowing the generational differences between traditionalists, baby boomers, Gen Xers, and Yers, / millennials is really good to know.
Yeah. Now, I guess like one of the questions I had that was coming up when you were talking about the list is like, let's say someone like Mutz, he doesn't have any children. So if he was going to social engineer someone and have to validate,
Mutz is a child.
no, he's not. But like if you had something, like if he was going to talk to someone and then someone brought up things like, "Oh, I have 3 kids," do you ever suggest someone without the experience of like in this situation? There's others that I can bring up, but in this situation, like someone without the experience of having kids, saying like, "Oh yeah, I have one at home too, around the same age."
No, can't do it.
So do you think without the experience of having children, it would definitely not be able to come off too real?
No, I don't think you can fake having kids, but what you can do is, I get asked this one a lot, the same thing, just because I like that dating age thing. I would reflect, you have a number of choices here. You can reflect it back on yourself and your experiences at that age, and where you can say, hey, now when I remember when I was growing up at that age, I was into this and this, and my parents didn't let me date, and we had a big argument about it, and the driving age in my house was this. How is it for you and your kids? So you could really keep the reflection back on yourself and you're disclosing, or you could, or if you do have, one of your, siblings that has kids or a friend that has kids and you've overheard these discussions with them, so it's easy to come up with content to talk about if you want to make a connection with kids, because they don't need to, I don't think people necessarily need to feel like you're a parent to understand where they're coming from, but understanding where kids is coming from and experiences and sharing of that, I would have the same kind of conversation with anyone that, because I got a friend I work with. He doesn't have any kids, but he's really into baseball, and so I asked him to come to my son's baseball practice, help out if he wanted to, and so we talk about baseball, and he reflects back on what it was like when he was playing baseball when he was younger, how he got into it in high school and then in college. So he's able to, make that connection even though he doesn't have kids, because we're talking about things and time periods.
So you feel strongly that pretexts should always be based off of something out of reality.
Yeah, in my experience doing a lot of undercover work, I never felt like I lied in any situation, but I really exaggerated a lot. And the best thing to do is I would always take an experience I had, or even a fleeting experience. Say, one time I wanted to come off as a photographer in a situation, and so I went out and I've taken pictures before, and so I beat that. One or a couple times that I was willing to take in photographs in my life, I kind of brought it up to everything I am right now. So I've taken a passing interest or hobby and brought it to the surface, and that became everything that I was. Because that way, I could speak the things I've done. I could talk about a fleeting passion I had, and it's just a different life choice I made at a different time. I think it really helps a lot. And then it becomes, I even wrote this down, it really becomes method acting, really, because that's what actors do, is they embrace the new character by learning it, becoming it, practicing it, speaking with people that live those careers, and it becomes their career.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Excellent.
Question for you. When you're first trying to develop rapport with someone new and it's a new situation, what are the most common problems, the most common obstacles that you might run into?
Good question again.
Probably, people's hesitancy to engage strangers. That's the easiest, the obvious one. That when you set off and you start in a conversation with anyone, their shields are going to go up. So they're going to be immediately very guarded. So it's up to you about how non-threatening you can be in your approach to get those guards down rapidly. And that's the biggest one, and especially if you're dealing with someone. This happened. Say it happens at the airport all the time. People are very used to, they're getting paid to validate you and service you. And a lot of times they're very grouchy people because they're having a bad day. It's compounded by stuff and situations going at home. And we've all seen the nonverbals of someone under stress and having a bad day. I think that's the hardest thing to get through for people that aren't willing to engage individuals that are having a bad day. And so what I generally will do is I will poke right at it. I'll just look at them and I'll validate them. I say, wow. I said, it looks like you're having kind of a rough day. How can I help you? And that always elicits a smile and you want to help me type of look. And I said, sure. I said, you're obviously giving of yourself all day long. I said, I got some time. What can I do for you today? And I get the most puzzled looks, and people just really start opening up. So I like poking at it a little bit.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's real interesting. Now, how do you get past, though, the barriers like let's say you say people are guarded, but maybe they're guarded also because of trying to think how I can word this. Like I'm a big guy, so some people might be guarded because they're just afraid of some 6'3" guy coming approaching them and start asking questions.
Sure. I'd poke fun at myself and self-deprecate. In other words, if I was, that height and walking up to someone, I might make kind of put a goofy smile on it, and say I'm walking up to a woman at a counter, and she's a lot shorter than me, or even a guy. I'd kind of stoop down a little bit, and I say I got to do this most of the time because people are so intimidated by my height, and it really sucks being as tall as I am. So I'm so sorry. No, I would do something like that. I'd poke fun at myself.
Yeah, that's excellent. I've actually used that before. What I like about what you just said, though, is the self-deprecating is not overboard. Like where you're really insulting yourself and making people feel like you got a mental problem.
Right.
Like I'm a freak of nature. Look how tall I am. But
no, because you're doing it with a smile and a chuckle. And be brief. Because you can see it. If you're intimidating someone or coming on too strong, you're gonna do some stress nonverbals right away. And the second you do, you self-deprecate. Just a quick blink out. And say, ooh, I can tell I'm making you a little uncomfortable. Is it my height? Gosh, I do this all the time. My friends tell me I really suck at this, and I'm a little too big, so I'm so sorry. What can I do? I'll give you more smiles. How about that? And so just you make a little joke out of it, and it'll make it go away.
Go into, if you can, the stress nonverbals. What is that?
Anytime you see compression really happening, I think that's the easiest thing to do. Micro expressions are great to watch all over the body, but they're very difficult to see, especially when you're trying to focus on the information you're trying to get. I like kind of going for the macros of the face, and that is anytime I start seeing compression or blocking. And so if I got someone I'm engaged and I walk up and I get an eyebrow furrow, where it's coming down compressed, I got a lip compression where they're pursing their lips. If I got chin elevations all of a sudden going to go down and blocking, squinting of the eyes, lip licking, anything like that. If I've had a conversation or I initiate a conversation, I start seeing these things right away. Oh, even eye blink rate. I love eye blink rate as well, because if you kind of set someone off and all of a sudden you see their blink rate slow down or that it just stops for a second, that's a blocking or compression. So I just immediately, when I see that, I back up and I poke at it. I say, ooh, did I say something uncomfortable? I'm so sorry. How can I make that better? I will immediately, because even if I'm wrong, they love the fact that you're trying to accommodate them. And so that immediately endears you as well.
And do you, at that same time, do you use your macro or micro expressions then to try to elicit a certain emotion within that person?
I try to bring up out of stress, and that's why I'll talk about a non-threatening topic, and I'll make sure that I over-accentuate my comfort, expressions. If they're looking a little uncomfortable, I'll maybe blade away a little bit more. So that way I can match them a little bit, let them know I'm not trying to get in their space. I'll back up a step. I'll slow down my speech a little bit. I'll smile a little bit more, and I'll lower my chin a little bit more. Just to show them I'm really non-threatening to you. And I'm trying to demonstrate that non-verbally to you.
Excellent. Wow, some really excellent suggestions here, Robin. I mean, really, that was 50 minutes or so of how to build rapport in 5 minutes. I love it. I love it.
No, you have to do is, we got to keep practicing it. That's fun.
Yeah, I mean, I like the suggestion of doing it each and every day, just with complete strangers, no matter where you are, and I can see how doing that after a period of time would make you so natural at it that it would just come off as second nature.
Yeah, and to pump your book as well. You really cover a lot of these topics really well in there. And when I'm teaching this stuff, the most important thing I think ever is to have people do it so they're successful, so that kind of they'll get a dopamine release from it, so it becomes a little bit of addicting, and they enjoy it, because the whole thing with teaching people to do this is that they want to go out and practice, enjoy practicing. And when you have success, set little milestones, and I had someone ask me this this week. It was the most interesting question I ever had, because I never really thought about it. They asked me, they said, what happens when you fail? And I was like, wow, what happens when I fail? And I said, I've never failed. And they said, what do you mean you never failed? I said, well, I never go for a bit of information unless I know the individual's ready to give it. In other words, I'm watching the nonverbal so intuitively, and that if no one gives me open enough nonverbals and the dialogue's not going, I will never go for a bit of information unless someone's ready. And so you only fail if you try and you don't get. So I think the best thing to be is, besides not trying to impress anyone and putting your ego suspension in, but be patient. These things take patience with some people, but if you're doing all the right things, if you don't get it the first engagement, you'll know if someone's ready to have a chat. Some super guarded people just aren't ready in the first 20 minutes and an hour or so to have that kind of conversation.
Yeah, that is a really interesting question. I agree with you there, because it's so much different than maybe software hacking or like penetration testing in that sense, because with social engineering, there really isn't a fail ratio unless you're too impatient.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? As long as you build that desire in that individual to want to have another conversation with you, you're going to get a second chance. And the way to do that is to validate and listen to all the things that no one else will.
Yeah, I agree, and I love the idea too. Like, you give people little miniature practice sessions. Just go out and talk to a complete stranger on the sidewalk, and it's amazing how people are so afraid to do that. But once they try it a couple times, how amazing of the outcome is, and what they feel now. They have like this new empowerment because they're able to do it.
Sure, people feel rejection, but when you actually, you will never. I have not met anyone that I've been rejected from when I've asked for help. Because when you ask for help, go ask a stranger for directions or something, or and you'll get it. And if you don't, people are still polite. Even if they don't want to help you, they'll still say, "No, I'm sorry, I'm not from around here. I'm in a rush." They're still going to say politely, "No."
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The other day I was standing outside at an ATM. It was one of these ATMs where you can actually deposit cash, like at the ATM in your account. And I don't usually use that. I like to go in, but the bank teller was closed, so I needed to make this deposit. And I never did it before, so I was just kind of looking at the ATM, like, where am I going to stick the cash when the drawer opens? I didn't know if, and this complete stranger saw me looking at the ATM and walked up to me and started giving me instructions on how to use it. And I just found that so interesting. Like, I wasn't like overly perplexed. I wasn't like throwing my hands up in the air. But he obviously saw my body language was maybe looking at the ATM as if I was unsure about it. And he came up and just started, here's the way this works, and you put the cash in here. I'm like, wow.
He was making sure you weren't going to install a skimmer.
Maybe, I don't know. But the guy, I just found that really interesting. Like you're saying, I didn't even have to ask that guy for help. It was my body language that was saying maybe I needed help. And he felt it and came up and offered his assistance without even being asked.
It's beautiful, isn't it? It's
yeah,
just beautiful.
It is. And that complete stranger, if it was me, I might have thought twice. Like, here's a guy with some cash at an ATM. Approaching him might make him really nervous, thinking, like, what, am I, a mugger or something? I might have thought through all of that. But this guy felt no qualms, just coming up and giving me some help to give me some direction on what I looked like confused about making this deposit. So I thought it was a really interesting interaction. I kept that in my head, like thinking, wow, this really works. I mean, without even having to ask, just giving the nonverbals that I need help, and people are willing to pour out the help.
Yeah, and you hit something else there too that I absolutely love doing. And you didn't have to do it in that case. Well, that guy didn't. But if you're afraid of the way something's going to come across, I tackle it right up front. So if you say the situation is reversed and that guy was at the ATM and you looked a little puzzled and you want to give him a hand, but not look like a mugger, I would roll up. I'd have my body bladed, be non-threatening, and I might even add, say, listen, I'm not a mugger or anything. I just thought you might need a little help. This is how this works. Because as soon as you say I'm not a mugger, people are going to believe you're not a mugger.
Right. He didn't say that, but what was interesting is what he said to me. He goes, hey, look, I'm not trying to get in your personal business, but it looks like you've never used this kind of ATM before.
People take you at your word. It's amazing. So because how many bank robbers or muggers walk up and say, listen, I'm not going to rob your bank. Now give me all your money.
Right, yeah, exactly. They walk in and say, this is a bank robbery. Now give me all your money. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I really do. I always found that to be fascinating, is how people will take you at your face value no matter what. Go back to that plane story. When she called in, she said, I'm a friend of his. I want to sit next to him. Can I have his seat number?
Yep.
They just took that. I mean, for all like she it's like an ex-wife or something trying to hunt me down, and they're just trying to find out where I'm going and where I'm spending my money.
This is my wife you're talking
I'm not. You know what I'm talking about. I was really careful to say that because I knew you were going to bring that up, but
Well, the fascinating thing about it is that most people will go out of their way not to lie. That's Bill Clinton with the land of is. He will. People redefine things. They'll use word bridges to get around issues. They'll use time gaps to get away from talking about what happened in the time they're trying not to talk about. Because people generally do not want to lie. It's a very uncomfortable thing to do. And so when someone actually says something, intuitively, that back recesses of our ancient brain says that if they're saying it, it's the truth. Granted, it might not be most of the time, obviously, but people generally don't like to lie.
I agree with you 100%. I really do, because I think that you see that often where people, they just take you at face value because they just inherently believe that what you tell them is going to be the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed. It is fascinating.
I might even, given our little train of thought there, I've never done this. Normally when I'm going for personal banking information, or PIN numbers or something like that to practice, I'm trying to elicit it using, all this subterfuge, and provocative statements and stuff like that. I'm going to try one of these times and say, listen, I'm not trying to get your PIN number or anything, but what would you do?
That would be
And see what
interesting.
responses you get. Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?
That would be interesting just to see their response. I would never give my PIN number of 0123.
Right. I bet you get a pretty favorable response doing that way, because you're stating that you don't want it and you're not seeking it, but really, what is it?
Now, Rob, let me just pause here for a second. You told me noon you had to head out with your wife. We're right upon
Yeah,
noon.
we should.
Okay, so I'll get back and let's end it. Hey, Robin, this was a epic conversation. If it was up to me, we can kind of stay here for the next few hours talking about this stuff, because I love this. You and I could probably yap about this all day.
Yeah, it's good stuff, isn't it?
But like you just told us, today's your anniversary, so I'd like you to stay living to give us more information, for a longer period of time. And I can imagine if you delay your wife anymore, you might not stay living. So I appreciate your time greatly. We all do.
Yes, thank you.
No problem. I love chatting with you all. You're great.
Yeah, I know we're going to have you back on the podcast again and again.
Hey, he's building rapport. He's giving us he's like, I love chatting with you, so we talk to him again.
Yeah.
You got to watch this guy.
I know, and it worked. We had him on twice. He's the only guest we've ever had twice.
Yeah,
I just sent him an email with my ATM PIN number. So
You don't want it, but what is it?
Yeah, I don't want to know what it is. I just sent him Much's ATM PIN number. Wow, how does that work?
no, I think we all speak for everybody that it was great. We learned something new every single time we talked to you, and it was a great podcast.
Hey, likewise, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and have fun today. And I'll shoot you an email when this comes out. If people want to know more about you, your courses, again,
Yep.
how do people that are listening to the podcast go and find out more about you?
Sure, that's easy. www.peopleformula.com, all one word.
Excellent.
People formula.
People formula.
Yep.
And Twitter, I know you're on Twitter. You tweet things about nonverbals a lot. How can they follow you there?
That's easy. Rdreeke, Rdreeke.
Excellent. So if you have any interest there, people that you just heard the URL and the Twitter, you can follow Robin there. So thanks a lot again, Robin. It's been really, really awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thank
See
you.
y'all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, guys, another great podcast.
Yeah, good interview.
Great interview.
Dookie said he had a lot
Yeah.
to say about it.
Yeah, Dookie, what do you have to say about that interview?
It sure was an interview.
I heard him giggling in the background.
He was giggling like a little schoolgirl. It was kind of funny. He was actually skipping around the hotel room
While he was eating a lollipop.
while eating a lollipop, and he has pigtails now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cute.
Pictures where it didn't happen.
Pictures or it didn't happen. I'll send you the pictures later. They'll be in the podcast notes.
Awesome, thanks.
No problem. You know what I really like about Robin is that every time we talk to him, I get it's like this stuff is not necessarily new, but I get a new idea. I love the way he brings out just doing this on a daily basis. I know, like during the thing, it could seem a little creepy at first, but your goal is not to get all this malicious information on people. It's really just to practice your SE skills, building rapport. So you do it on a daily basis with people, and then when it comes time to have to use it for real life, it's so much easier. I really liked it. I really do. I've been trying to practice that more and more, just everyday stuff, How about you guys? Any thoughts on?
Well, I told you what happened with me, right?
No. The TSA.
It's not only the TSA. I felt that the minute I came with this initially friendly approach, calling someone, especially if it's woman sweetie or dear, or coming across as initially someone who's overly, well, not overly, again, it actually depends where you're coming from, but someone who's very open and very accepting of everything. I found that really makes things easier, especially if you're trying to get someone to get into a conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I definitely agree with what was said today. I've seen it in practice.
So do you find that like loosened up the TSA agents to be a little more friendly with you?
TSA might have not been the best example, right? Because I mean, yes, in one case it did. The TSA agent sort of smiled and whatnot. But I've tried this with cab drivers. I've tried this with all sorts of service providers since I've arrived to the United States. And initially, it's a bit of a shock, because the
You're like
lady,
so happy and friendly.
yeah, the lady down at the counter, the last thing that she expects is for someone to call her sweetie, or dear, or something like that. But it really does make a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that would be an opener, and I think that like one of the things that Robin said that makes sense in this case is it has to fit your personality.
Sure.
If I were to do it, I think it would be a whole different takeoff for people. If I walked up to the woman at the counter here. Yeah,
if you call me sweetie, bro, I'll be running.
That's what I'm saying. I think like if I were to do that, even at the TSA or at the counter, it might come off a little more creepy because of it being a different personality type.
Yeah.
Just my voice, everything, my personality, it would come off a little more. But with you, the way you hold yourself and your accent, it does sound very warm and friendly. I like that.
If you were to call me sweetie, I'd be like running the marathon, right? Oh, look at the little hacker running. He's in first place.
Yeah. That's what I call Dookie. Dookie, grab my pocket, sweetie. Silent now, aren't you? Yeah.
He's giving you the look.
Is that vodka in that bottle? It is now. Okay, we got a couple things to talk about as we finish up. Let's talk about the most important one, which is off-sex stuff. All in October. We have... Well, actually, let me back up a second. Let's talk about Black Hat, because that comes before October. Black Hat PWB is already sold out. Ridiculous, if you ask me.
We sent the Twitter a month ago. Don't whine.
Yeah, you did. I actually appreciated that Twitter, because last year we had so many people coming up to us. I only waited a month, and then it was already sold out. So this year, it was like we sent it the week it came out. 3 weeks later, we were sold out. So there's nothing we can do now. So that's completely pounded and booked. All is filling up as we speak. That's going to sell out shortly, also, from what I hear. So those two classes are going to be great. Vegas is going to be off the hook again for us. But we're doing something brand new. Our first live all-class, non-Black Hat all-class. That's going to be in October in Columbia, Maryland, in the U.S. That's also going to be limited. I think we're limiting that to 16 seats for that class. And that class is already, this early, is already filling up also. So... we got people flying from all over the world for that class.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. I mean, the first few people that signed up were not from America. They were from overseas, flying in just for this class. Really blows my mind to see them coming all the way from far, far away countries to come to this class.
I got to give all the previous students credit from the older AWE classes. We just get a extremely high caliber of talent that comes into that class. They've all impressed me. They work hard. They show up. They put on effort. Well, all right.
He said the older all classes.
Yeah.
You were in the most
older. I was there a year ago.
No, you were in the most recent one. The most recent all class was yours. So the older ones, meaning the ones previous.
It was actually Dave who brought down the standard in the last class.
It really did hurt the curve.
Yeah, it hurt. I mean, before Dave, our curve was pretty high. We had some really...
And then he was like, oh, what's Ollie and what's this?
Well, he shows up and he whines the whole time and accuses other people of cheating.
Especially when Dual Core smacked him down like a... I can't even say
one module. You guys are still hanging out. See, crazy. I'm going to use that whole thing we just talked about before as leverage for like 6 years because you guys bring up like things.
That's great. 6 years later, 6 years ago, I got one guy signed up to your class. That's awesome, Dave. Awesome. Nah, we love teasing you because we know you did good. Actually, Matteo said a lot of nice things about you in the class, too.
And then he spit
Oh,
on
it was
it.
all in Italian.
That was a great course. I mean, I can't speak anything. I mean, the best course I've ever been in ever. Minus, CTP and all were, very equal. I don't want to make Buzz mad there.
Well, the difference, I guess, is just the difficulty level of what's going on there. It's just, from what I've heard from the students in the reviews, it's just been rated as one of the hardest classes on the market today. So really, if you're at that level, that's really where you want to be. And I think that's why we keep the classes real small. And we have people come in for that all class, not only in Black Hat, but after that in October. So and there's some differences. We have a set of 4 days, like in Black Hat. The all class in October is going to be 5 days. So I think Matteo's adding. He's adding some things.
Is this like a podcast or an OffSec promotional thingy?
Well, you know what? I can use it for however I want.
All right, but time
Time is money, and
listening.
time is money, and they're all the people listening are like, man, am I
You
good
should have
enough?
just said all November. It's going to be great. Next.
I could have, but then it would have been wrong since all's in October. Okay, so if I said all November next, then people would have been misled. So I could say all October and then move on. Okay.
So let's move on.
Okay, you see, much loves when I go off and off on offensive security stuff. Hey, Dave, give us some updates on DerbyCon. What's going on?
Sure. Yeah, we actually last weekend we went down to Louisville with Pure Hate and Iron Geek, and we checked out the whole area there. And I have to say, I fell in love with it, man. It's one of the best looking areas I've ever seen. So you walk into the Hyatt and you go up to the second floor, which is where the conference is at. We have the whole floor rented out, and they have a really large bar there that can hold about 100 people with pool tables and full thing there. And then you walk a couple feet to the left, and you can walk right into this little walkway that's got about 100 room seating of plush leather seat, theater style setup where you can just watch hacker movies and drink beer there if you wanted to. So just a lot of cool, things inside of the con that you're going to be able to do just to hang out and socialize, which is everything that we're about. And then if you want to get out of there, you don't want to stay in the hotel. You literally walk right out of the doors of the Hyatt, hang a left, and you walk about 50 feet. And you're in the 4th Street Live area, which has got 20 bars, 20 restaurants, food courts, anything that you can possibly imagine would be down there. And it's just a really big party area. So,
do you have numbers
Friday,
yet?
Saturday,
What's
that?
Do you have numbers yet as far as how many people a DerbyCon is going to be able to house?
We're still working out the fine details of that, and we got a pretty good ballpark, but I don't want to announce it yet.
Okay, no, that's cool. And when do tickets go on sale?
Tickets go on sale April 29th, which is this month. So we'll be opening up our ticketing system 29th, and it's very straightforward. So you log into you go to the DerbyCon site, and then there'll be a Pay Now button, which you can basically go and purchase your tickets. So very simple. It's completely outsourced, so definitely won't be having any issues with crashes or anything like that.
Will there be limitations on how many tickets each person can buy?
No, you can basically add as many as you want to.
Awesome.
So by saying that it's all outsourced, would you say you're using the cloud, Dave?
Jim, I'm not going to even entertain that comment right there. You just used a bad word.
Is it outsourced like the creation of set?
Well, I sent it over to China. It's cheaper there.
Okay, just curious. I'm just curious. Okay, that
no,
helps.
I mean it's just easier to not do the whole payment system internally and have it done.
Yeah, probably less of a headache.
What was that, Chris?
No, I almost
Dr. Death.
Dr. Death just struck again. I said it's probably less of a headache to do it the way you're doing it.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, that's exciting, man. That's exciting. We're gonna be anxious to see. Maybe by the next podcast, we'll be able to say, how the sales are going and if you're sold out like in a couple days.
Absolutely.
Are you going to put all?
About it. It's going to be an amazing conference, that's for sure.
Are you going to put all the tickets up at once, or is there going to be like waves? Like where you have this many for sale at this time, and then.
No, all the tickets go on sale at once.
Okay. Awesome, man. Well, we're excited to see it. I've just been looking at the speaker list. You got like some really hardcore speeches going on there.
Yeah, we just announced last week that sorry for the babies in the background there.
That's
We just announced last week that Egypt and Carlos Perez are going to be giving some Metasploit class training. So Egypt's giving one on Metasploit mastery, and Carlos Perez is giving one on post exploitation and Metasploit. So another 2 great additions to the lineup. We got a couple more announcements coming out soon.
Awesome. How about Dookie? You want Dookie to give a speech?
Only if he has pigtails in his hair and everything, right?
He does now. So, he's been skipping around giggling. So, awesome, man. Well, that kind of wraps it up, I guess. Do we have anything else we need to talk about, guys, before we end this month?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
That it? Dookie, you have anything you want to share?
No, I'm good.
No, you're good? Okay. How about you, Dave? Anything else?
Nope, nothing.
Okay,
Good luck
awesome.
with class next week.
Thanks, man. And
Put my guy through some pain.
oh, we will. Believe me. We'll hurt him bad. There's 4 of us for a smaller class, so there'll be definite pain during the class time. Don't worry about that. If you like the outro music, you can check it out at dualcoremusic.com. You can keep in touch with us through Twitter at Human Hacker, on the free node network on IRC at channel social-engineer, or of course our website www.social-engineer.org. I guess thank you, and we'll talk to you next month. Bye.
Better stay alert. Your company may be next.
I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you.
It's the SE derivative. That's me, I'm prime. The last thing I want is suspicion of a crime. My positive demeanor and my smile make it fine. With eye contact for the right amount of time. Too much and not enough doesn't seem for real. Got a nice firm handshake sealing the deal. Know a little about a lot and a lot about a little. So most conversations put me somewhere in the middle. My pop culture knowledge leaves me feeling kinda scary. It lets me chat with working class and gossip secretaries. Recon the boardroom, looking for the top thing. Loosen up execs when I ask about the golf swing. Start spewing secrets, just like a torrent. Can't really blame them, we all wanna feel important. It might seem different from what you were envisioning. The key to communicate, it's all about the listening.
I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you.
Offering support to employees is the best. When I'm calling random users and claiming I'm a tech, he's just here to help. So they're easily believing him. Jamming, planning, scamming, spanning every single medium. Recording while I'm spidering your phone menu system. The mirror it and use it for my own acquisition. Get him on the line, I just do a little switching. Sending out my number in the message when I'm fishing. 6 billion people, it's really quite a market. Customers, employees, everyone's a target. Backing up my claims, using all the common slang. Lingo for the layout, drop the manager's name. Collecting all the sweet stuff like honey to a bumblebee. Like every unlisted number dialed to your company. You saw me, you probably think I'm clumsy, but I'm not. Cause I'm dropping all these USB drives around the parking lot. Whoops.
I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll